My 24-year-old wife looked gorgeous as the suit slid over her full breasts and beautiful round ass. She knew how to emphasize the positives. I knew no one would have any trouble identifying her at the party. The small mask she wore gave her a slightly mysterious look, but her smile and figure gave her away. I put my hand on her breast and squeezed lightly. She still fascinated me. As had happened so often lately, she'd rejected my advances. She might as well have poured a bucket of cold water on me. "Ted, please keep your hands to yourself. I don't want my outfit ruined. Just get ready, okay?" Becky was demanding rather than asking. I thought that when our two children were grown and on their own, we would share more of our time and passions. But it didn't work out that way. We both worked, and Becky volunteered for several organizations. She seemed to have no time for me and even less interest. I'd heard that middle-aged women's hormones, or lack thereof, can lower their sex drive. Becky was extreme. I was thankful my right hand was always there for me. I put on my stupid wizard outfit, and we headed off to the party without saying a word. Becky seemed to prefer it that way. Linda and Jack were having their annual Halloween party. It had started 7 years ago and had gotten bigger every year. They rented a huge house and decorated it for the holiday. When did Halloween become a real holiday for adults? I wondered as we waited for the door to open. Linda opened the door and hugged Becky. She was about the same height as Becky, with a few extra pounds, mostly in the right places. Linda was always laughing, and she was a lot of fun to be with. She turned around and gave me a hug. "You both look great. Becky, men are going to want you to cater to them tonight. Your beautiful breasts will drive those horny guys crazy," Linda suggested. "The French maids would find plenty of work here if they looked like you." Becky laughed at Linda's remark, but I could tell that Becky liked the remark. Then Goofy came over to us and gave Becky a hug. It was hard to understand what he was saying because his mask had no place to speak from. Finally, we realized that inside the costume was Jack. If Linda hadn't giggled at our confusion, there was no way we would have guessed. Jack is easy to recognize, really. I've been saying for years that he's a weirdo. "Let me get you a drink and you try to find out who else you might recognize," Linda added. Goofy only bowed and pointed the way. It looked like Jack wouldn't be able to talk much this evening. Linda and Jack had become our closest friends, and we had enjoyed talking to them. We joined the party, chatting with ogres and superheroes of all sizes and shapes. Becky and I were eventually separated, and I knew it didn't bother her. I had a few drinks and had a great time. Around 8 o'clock, I was helping Jack bring wine and beer from the cellar when his cell phone rang. He quickly removed his goofy head and answered it. The conversation didn't seem to be going in his favor, so I busied myself with taking the beer into the kitchen. When I got back to the basement, Jack was scowling. "Boss wants me to meet a big client at the airport. If it wasn't such a good job, I'd tell the bastard to kiss my sweet ass," Jack muttered. "Anyway, I'll have to go and do it. If the plane arrives on time, I can drop him off at the hotel and be back by 10:30 or 11. "Linda's going to bust my ass for that," Jack complained. "She keeps telling me to stand up for the boss. It's easy for her to say, but if I get fired, she'll call me the dumbest bastard in the world." Women love to tell men how to act in any situation, I agreed. They should be in our shoes. Jack looked at me and smiled. "Now that's an answer. Ted, can you do me a big favor?" he asked. "Could you put on a goofy costume every now and then and walk around looking silly? I've been doing it all night, and it's not hard at all. I'll take it off and go out the basement door right now. You can sneak down here, put it on, and walk around for a few minutes, then come back downstairs and put yours on. No one will know." I really couldn't think of a good reason to say no, except that I would be participating in a hoax. Well, I've had worse, and I'd drunk enough to bring some grim thoughts to mind. "Sure, Jack, no problem. When you get back, put on a suit and go back to being your Goofy," I joked. He didn't need any further encouragement. He took off the outfit, stashed it in some closet, and waved and headed for the exit. I looked at Goofy's head and started giggling to myself. Within a minute, I was already enjoying the party as Jack, aka Goofy. It was like I was Jack. I tried to act and walk like him. I was really enjoying it. I walked into the kitchen and saw that Linda was making some appetizers. "Jack, take this to the dining room, will you?" Linda asked. She was dressed like a witch, only in a short skirt and a low top. I never realized witches looked like that. I walked over to her and squeezed her ass. She was gorgeous. It was a little rounder than Becky's, but very shapely. Linda looked to see if anyone was watching and then put my hand on her breasts. I was stunned. "I'm putting a spell on you, Goofy," Linda grinned. "If you don't look at Becky's big boobs, those babes will be yours tonight. You like mine better, don't you?" I just stood there, feeling Linda's breasts and tensing up. I nodded in agreement. Linda reached down and stroked my newly erect erection. "I can see you like them. Now get your appetizers over here, pervert," Linda insisted, removing my hand. I found that I could stick a straw through the hole in Goofy's head and drink mixed drinks. Usually my poison was beer, but I'd heard somewhere that drinking beer with a straw was harmful. Besides, Jack was a fan of mixed drinks. I felt no pain as I headed for the bathroom. Naturally, it was occupied. I knew where the bedroom and bathroom were on the second floor, so I headed up the stairs. After all, this was my house. Walking into the bedroom, I ran into Becky coming out. "Hi, Goofy," she cooed. "You're such a sexy character. I have one question I've always wanted answered." As she spoke, she reached down and grabbed my sex organ. How did she know it was me? I felt myself start to react as she moved her hand up and down. I reached up and pulled her breasts out of her tight top. "You're feeling frisky again, Goofy," Becky smiled. "I'm enjoying it. Now my question, Goofy." She slipped to the bedroom door and closed it. Her breasts were still exposed. She turned toward me. As she did so, I wondered if she had said again. "I want to know if Goofy is a dog or not. I've decided how to find out," Becky admitted. She got out of her thong and stood with her knees on the bed. Then she got on all fours, reached back and pulled up her short skirt. I started unzipping the zipper on my pants, quickly going behind her back. "If you fuck me like a bitch, I'll know," Becky stated. "You want to fuck me like a bitch, Goofy?" I didn't need a second invitation. I didn't realize the change in her attitude, but I didn't care. She finished almost immediately, and I followed her. "You're so horny," Becky exclaimed. "Are you okay with that, or do you want to try for a threesome later?" she asked, pulling up her panties. I was still trying to digest what she had told me. Try for a threesome? Had she asked if I was feeling horny again? Why was she like this? And how did she know I wasn't Jack? Suddenly it hit me like a hammer to the eyes. Becky had slept with Jack earlier that night, and she thought she had just slept with Jack again. "Ted won't get anything from that kitty, so he'll never know. I'm saving it just for you, Goofy," she smirked. "Well, we should get back before anyone suspects anything. I'll see you Friday," Becky added as she left the room. I felt sick to my stomach. The revelation had sobered me up completely. Wearing Jack's disguise was no longer fun. I went back to the basement and changed my clothes again. It was 10:30 and Jack should be back soon. I went upstairs, but I wasn't interested in what was being said. "There you are, Ted," Becky called out from across the room. "I've been looking for you. I want to introduce you to Martha and Bill." I walked over, shook hands, and smiled. I didn't know how I felt or what I should do. I've learned over the years that when I'm confused or angry, it's best to do nothing. You have to think things through first, so I started thinking. I looked at Becky in a whole new light. She had been turning me down for sex for quite some time, and I thought she had just lost interest. It turned out she had only lost interest in me. She looked stunning in her outfit, and I admired her beauty. I always had. I had to decide what, if anything, I was going to do about her affair. Linda joined us, and I felt a tremendous amount of guilt. It wasn't guilt for me. It was guilt for Becky and Jack. Linda was a wonderful person, and this would hurt her far more than it would hurt me. She was loving and sensitive, and her children were younger. The youngest was only 12, and her daughter was in high school. Jack and Becky were willing to put their future in jeopardy, but I realized that wasn't the case. One of my first reactions was to tell Linda, only to have Jack's ass in a sling. Standing there, I realized that revenge couldn't be controlled. I didn't have to react like a wounded bear, lashing out in pain and anger at everything in sight. Linda deserved to be happy. Maybe Jack and Becky would ship their affair and Linda would never be hurt. I realized one thing. I wouldn't be the one to hurt her. It occurred to me that I cared about her more than her husband and Becky, her best friend. Sleeping with a woman's husband would put the friendship to the test. At that moment, Goofy walked into the room. I felt like knocking him on his ass, but that would only lead to a situation I couldn't control. He hugged Linda and Becky and nodded his silly head. Linda was glowing, and Becky looked quite happy. Was she thinking about how she had framed Linda and me? Was she a monster I didn't know? The time was nearing 11, and I was emotionally drained. I needed to sit down and think. "Becky, let's stay the night," I suggested. "It's a little late and I'm tired." Becky immediately flared up and gave me her menacing look. "Are you kidding me, Ted? It's only 11 and the night is still young. We can stay another hour or two at least." 2 hours ago, that would have been the end of it. Then I was hunting for the carrot on the string we call a real woman. Now I knew how Becky felt, and I had no reason to worry too much about her desires. I realized that I suddenly felt free. I could start acting like a man. "You can stay out all night if you want, and I'm sure you'll find more than one man in that outfit to give you a ride home. Jack, Linda, thanks for a great time. See you guys soon." They stood with their mouths open as I spoke. I turned and headed for the door. As I closed the door, I heard Linda say goodbye. When I found the car and started it, Becky was already opening the door and yelling at me at the top of her lungs, jumping in. "You selfish freak! How can you do this to me? You should be ashamed of yourself. I think you should go back in there and apologize right now," she shouted. In her anger, she didn't even bother to close the door. I just walked over and pushed her back out the door. She fell with her ass on the tin cup, and her thong was in front of me when she landed. I didn't want to hit on her, so I waited until she moved away from the door and closed it. To my surprise, she climbed back in and closed the door. "What's the matter with you?" she demanded. Before she could say anything else, I reached over and opened her door. "You can come home with me or go out with me, but if you want to come with me, then shut the fuck up. Don't yell at me ever," I said quietly, giving my words special meaning. Becky stared at me for a minute and then closed the door. The ride home passed in silence. I knew she was trying to figure out how I was acting, and she wasn't succeeding. I also knew she was trying to pierce me with her gaze and her silence. There was a time when her silence hurt me more than her words. Today, she hurt me more than she ever had before. Upon reflection, I realized that I had just fended off her best blow. From now on, nothing she does or says will bother me. She gave up control over me when she gave her ass to Jack. All I had to do was decide what to do next. When we got home, Becky hurried into the bedroom and locked the door. I walked up to her and kicked her. She shrieked as the joint flew past her and fell onto the bed. I gathered up almost all the clothes I would need and carried them to the spare bedroom. Then I grabbed my toothbrush, razor, and miscellaneous sundries and put them in the spare bedroom. Becky watched me but didn't say anything. Finally, I laid down in the guest bed and fell asleep like a baby. I got up early and went for a long walk. As I walked, I pondered my actions. I decided to proceed with caution. I didn't want to do anything that couldn't be undone. I had to have a purpose for myself. I couldn't wallow in self-pity. When I got home, Becky was doing her usual Saturday cleaning. I went to Home Depot and picked up the lumber needed to repair the bedroom door. I spent the rest of the morning making the repairs. Becky didn't talk to me, and I liked it that way. After lunch, I went to the local gym and signed up. I had added 20 pounds over the years, and it wasn't muscle. One of my resolutions was to take better care of myself and treat myself with more respect. I would demand that of others. I had so many years left, and I wasn't going to waste them on regrets and fears. Then I bought clothes so I could go to the gym. I had never had workout clothes before. Now I had some. On my way home, I passed a salon that advertised services for men and women. I stopped and went inside. 45 minutes later, I walked out of there looking and feeling much better. My hair was cut pretty close, but the girl had waxed it and slicked it back. They stood up straight, and I realized I looked younger. I gave her a good tip. When I got home, I put my purchases in the drawers in the spare room. Becky tried to watch me without giving me any sign. It was getting close to dinner time, but there was no sign of dinner. I changed into something more presentable and headed out for a quiet dinner. I had more time to think, and I enjoyed it. Becky wasn't telling me what I should do, what to order, or how to eat. After dinner, I sat at the bar and had a couple drinks. I chatted with a few people about politics and sports. Then I headed home. Becky was watching TV when I walked in. I smelled some kind of food but didn't see any signs of it. I grabbed a beer and went to my room, watched the news, finished my beer, and went to bed. Sunday, I got up early, put on one of my new tracksuits, and went for a run. At least I tried. I didn't manage to make it a block before I was completely exhausted, so I went for a walk. When I felt better, I went at a trot. It took a couple hours, but I walked 2 miles there and 2 miles back. By the time I got into the house, sweat was dripping down my face and chest. My shirt was glued to my back. Becky had just gotten up. She watched me stagger through the kitchen and into the bathroom. I'd never felt a shower so relaxing and soothing. I applied some wax to my hair and brushed it the way the girl had done. I felt so much better than I had in a long time. "We need to talk if you can keep your composure," Becky told me as I walked out of my new bedroom. "Sure, Becky, what exactly is the problem?" I asked. "I think you know perfectly well. I had to call Linda and apologize to her for your behavior," Becky admitted. "She and Jack saw you push me out of the car. I felt like an idiot when she told me about it. I won't tolerate any physical violence from you, Ted." "That's good to hear. Then you won't try to yell at me anymore, and you won't have to worry about it. No verbal abuse and no physical violence sounds like a deal," I replied. "Why are you acting like this, Ted?" asked Becky. "I'm your wife, and I deserve an explanation." "And I'm your husband and deserve a piece of ass when I want one," I replied. "I'm very touched that you think so highly of Linda that you apologized for my behavior. I know you would never do anything to hurt her." Becky was stunned. I'd never done anything more than lament the lack of sex, and a remark about Linda might have made me feel guilty. This was what was going to happen, and if Becky had a shred of humanity in her, it would. "Is this all about sex?" Becky laughed. "You know I've been tired and working a lot lately. Are you only thinking about yourself?" "I guess so," I replied. "You keep a beautiful home and work full-time. That makes you a very good wife, and I appreciate it." I did have unusually inflated expectations for romance. I realize that now. I've come to terms with it. I'm going to enjoy what you can do and not complain about what you can't. "I'm not sure I understand what you're saying, Ted. Could you explain it to me?" she asked. "It's very simple, Becky. We can continue to live the way we've been living for months now. I do the chores around the house, you cook and clean, we both work. I'll just sleep in the other room so I don't get upset seeing you get dressed and undressed, and you won't have to worry that I'm trying to peek at you or anything. I won't bother you anymore." "Do you know when we last had sex?" I asked suddenly. "I don't know the date, but it wasn't that long ago," Becky replied. "You're absolutely right," I agreed. I didn't tell her it was at the party, but it confirmed that she never knew I was the bastard who'd fucked her. "Doesn't this all seem a little childish to you, Ted? We've been sleeping together for over 20 years. I miss you, and I think you miss me," she added. "I don't think so, Becky. I think you have the sweetest ass I've ever seen, but I won't agonize over it or you anymore. It will ease both my stress and yours." "A lot of people sleep in separate bedrooms when they get older," I remarked. "I know it doesn't bother you one bit. My presence was a pain in your ass. Now we can do all the things we used to do and be happier." I could see her wheels spinning. This was what she wanted, except she didn't have to torture me. It might have made it easier to meet Jack, too. "Well, Ted, you're right, I can live with that arrangement. When you get tired of it and want to torture my sweet ass again, come begging," Becky muttered. "Good. We have a deal. I think that'll work out great," I replied. My happiness annoyed her, but deep down, she knew I would give in and crawl back in. Monday was the first day of the rest of my life. I started getting up early and going to the gym. It was open 24 hours, so I could get there by 5 and work out for 2 hours before I had to get ready for work. Becky would get up and get dressed for work while I showered and shaved. Every night, she would cook dinner for us, and we would watch TV or read in the evening. Friday morning, she reminded me that it was Friday and that she was volunteering at the library that evening. She looked at me strangely when I laughed. "Sure, I know your love of books. I'll be fine. Stay as late as you want," I added. "At the library? You know they close at 11 on Friday," Becky told me. "Never mind. You might have to work on the Dewey Decimal System or something, I grinned. Becky was trying to figure out what I meant when I left that morning. I remembered her telling me, thinking I was Jack, that she'd see me on Friday. I remembered that he was volunteering at the library, too. Tonight, he was going to screw stupid Becky. That afternoon, a guy in the office asked if I knew how to bowl. I hadn't done it in years, but I'd always enjoyed it. He needed a replacement for a guy on his team. The one had an accident and broke his leg. I went and had a great time. I got home a little after 11 and Becky was already waiting for me. She was dressed for bed and looked very sexy. "Where were you tonight, Ted?" she asked. "I got home a little early and you weren't here." "I signed up for a bowling league on Fridays. That way it won't hurt you to leave me home while you go to the library," I replied. "I've been thinking about stopping those trips to the library," Becky replied. "I realize I'm wasting a lot of time on her." So what was going on? Did she and Jack have a fight or something? I could find out pretty easily. "No, Becky, you like it too much and they depend on you. I'm okay with that. I really like the guys I bowled with today, and now I'm going to do it on Fridays," I told her. "Tell you what, we can have Linda and Jack over for dinner tomorrow and I'll apologize for my boorish behavior. How's that sound?" I asked. Becky seemed hesitant, but gradually agreed. In the end, I didn't have an answer. "That would be great, Ted. I'll call them in the morning," Becky agreed. "Great, we're making it work," enthused I. "Good night, Becky," I said, heading to my room. Becky seemed like she wanted to say something else, but didn't. I got up early and ran again. Thanks to going to the gym and using the treadmills, I was able to cover more distance before I had to walk. As I ran, I pondered if Jack had had the opportunity to screw Becky last night. Then I realized it didn't really matter. I felt great. At dinner, I tried to be very friendly and welcoming to Linda and Jack. I told jokes, laughed, complimented Linda on her looks, and generally was a good host. I took the time to apologize for my sudden departure from the party. "I couldn't believe you left so quickly and told Becky she could use a ride," Linda laughed. "Most men would never dare leave a wife dressed the way Becky was dressed at a party. She wouldn't have been able to drive home safely with any man," she added. She was beautiful. By this time, Linda had had several glasses of wine and wasn't about to let it end. It didn't bother me one bit. "When you pushed poor Becky out of the car, I didn't know what to think. Surely it must have taken you a while to make amends, didn't it?" Linda asked. "I'll never make amends for what I did that night," I replied. "I'll live the rest of my life as a monk." Linda groaned. "I think you're too young to give up," she grinned. "Your wife is too hot to give up sex. Look at her." Becky did look stunning. Her dress was simple and not too low cut. The skirt was quite short and showed off her gorgeous legs. My legs were still a little sore at the thought of what I had lost. "I didn't say Becky would have to go without clothes," I corrected Linda. "I just said I wouldn't drink from that well." Linda burst into laughter and I joined her. Becky and Jack didn't seem to get the humor as well as Linda and I did. Becky gave a strained smile and Jack just shook his head. We had a great evening with Jack and Linda. Finally, they thanked us and left. I picked up some appetizers and took them into the kitchen. Becky was there and turned around when I walked in. "Ted, we've been doing this for a week now. Don't you think it's time for you to come back to bed with me?" she asked. "You shouldn't be sleeping alone in this room." "Thank you, Becky. You're very generous, but it doesn't look like it's going to work. Look how much fun we had tonight. Now I can get a good night's sleep without bothering you or myself. Good night, Becky." I didn't even shake her hand. I'd avoided any contact with her since Goofy fucked her at the party. She seemed disappointed, but such is life. For the next 8 weeks, my life worked out fine, except for my marriage. I reasoned that overall things were much better than before. My whole life was crap when Becky had an influence on me. Becky had become somewhat moody. Every now and then she would try to seduce me with revealing outfits and a few suggestive remarks. I think she missed her ability to make me miserable. She was a beautiful woman, but willful. Most of the time she played by my rules and we got along. I always resisted any of her attempts to lure me into her bed. Summer was approaching, bowling was over, and I was home again on Fridays. I went to the gym every day. I did gain a few pounds, but my waist had shrunk from a size 36 to a size 34. This seemed strange to me. Why should my belly be smaller and my weight bigger? Since there was no bowling and Becky was volunteering at the library, I started running on Friday nights. I met a lot of people on the route I was running. I was able to run a full 6 miles without stopping just to chat. I felt like I could run forever. Because of the summer heat, I ran shirtless on Fridays. The mornings were cool enough so the shirt didn't bother me. One Friday evening I got home just before dark. I was covered in sweat from working out. When I reached our block, I noticed several cars parked in our driveway. I thought about it as I walked to the front door. As I entered the house, I heard a lot of voices coming from the living room and went to see what was going on. When I walked in and looked around, the room was quiet. Becky was there and a few ladies I recognized from the library. For some reason, they were in my house and not in the library. I looked to see if my fly was down. They were really staring at me. Finally, an attractive blonde I only knew as Jenny broke the silence. "Jesus, Becky, where have you been keeping your husband?" she demanded. "You should take him with you to the library. He could help me rearrange the shelves or something." Becky looked even more stunned than the other ladies. She just stared at me. "And he's been going to the gym all winter. I think it's taken its toll," she said. Another woman about my age added, "If my husband had abs on the outside like yours and not on the inside, I wouldn't even leave the house to go to the library." I thought I had gotten through it all, but I blushed like a bride. I was venting my frustration at the gym, and I may have gotten carried away. I didn't keep track of the changes I made, but these women let me know that the change was for the better. "I'm grateful for the kind words," I laughed. "It will inspire me to keep working." I went to the bathroom to take a shower. I was in the middle of a long, slow shower when I felt hands on my back. I turned around. There was a naked Becky standing in the shower. I didn't know what to say, so I stayed silent. "The ladies have gone home and I thought you could use a backwash," she smiled. I nodded and turned my back to her. She took a rag and soap and slowly soaped my back. The sensation felt great. She began to move her hands lower. I was gripped by the fear that I would be beckoned back to being a spineless buffoon that she could use as she pleased. "Looks like this guy wants me to wash him too," she said. I put my hand on Becky's arm and stopped her. "Becky, I'm not going to make it," I told her simply. "Do you have a girlfriend, Ted? Is that it? Have you found another woman?" she asked. I could see she was close to tears. "No, I've never been unfaithful to you, Becky." Then I added, "And I never will. You're the only woman I've ever loved." "You have a strange way of showing it," exclaimed Becky. "Then why don't you ever try to make love to me?" "I don't want to be treated like I'm some bone I have to pick, Becky," I told her. "My wife will be mine and only my woman. I will have no other, and I will not share her. You want to control me and decide when I have sex. You want to use it to beckon, tease, torment, and torment me. I will never do that again. My woman will be sweet but obedient to my needs and desires. I will never be able to dominate a woman again." Becky just stared at me. She asked fearfully, "Are you saying I haven't been faithful to you? Are you saying that I should bow and prostrate myself before you? You think I should give up my independence and live the way women lived hundreds of years ago?" she demanded. "Becky, I'm not suggesting anything. You know who and what you are, what you've said and done, and with whom." I continued, "I know that my woman will be my partner and equal to me, but will defer to my wishes, as I believe a woman should do. You are free to disagree and continue to live your life as you do. I have no disagreement with that. I will not live the way I lived before I moved into my own room. You can join me in my world, or you can live separately. I have decided what is best for me, and I am content with that. If you're happy with your life, don't change it one bit." Becky cried back, "I just don't know what you want, and if I find out, I might not be able to do it. Can't you just come back to me? I'll be so much better for you, please." I turned off the shower and toweled her dry as I spoke. "Becky, you know what I want, and you can do it. You may not want to do it. I accept that," I told her. "I've chosen my course, and I feel fine. Except for not having you, my life is successful. If you can say the same about your situation, then we're both lucky to have what we have." Becky, you decide for yourself what you want. But you won't have me until you tell me the truth, and the whole truth at that, I stated. You keep talking like there's some secret or something, Becky whined. What do you think there is? What do you want from me? You know the answers to all your questions, Becky, I replied. If and when you decide to be completely honest with me and accept my terms, let me know. With those words, I escorted her beautiful naked body out the bathroom door. I realized that she still had a hold on my heart, but I would never go back to the way I was. I decided I was beyond the devil and made a decision. I went and knocked on Becky's door. Becky, since you don't have anything to do at the library tonight, why don't you have dinner with me? I asked through the door. I wondered if she heard me when I got my answer. Give me 20 minutes to get ready, Ted. I'll be glad to go to dinner, she said. 40 minutes had passed when I pulled up in front of a nice Italian restaurant across town from our house. Becky looked concerned as I parked the car. I don't know this place, Ted. I've heard it's not very good, Becky offered. I don't know who would say that. It's pretty well known as the best restaurant around, I replied. We walked through the door and I turned to the hostess. We need a table for two, please. She seemed to look at Becky for a second longer than necessary and then motioned for us to follow her. I escorted Becky to our table. She was beautiful as usual. Then I noticed that she was agitated. I thought it was because of our previous conversation, so I tried to put her at ease. Becky, I just want to have a nice dinner and relax. You're too beautiful to be sad. Smile and enjoy yourself, I advised. Remember that little restaurant on Maui we had dinner at once? I asked. She smiled, remembering the time I was talking about. That was so much fun. I've never... Becky, how have you been? I haven't seen you in a while. Where's Jack? The stranger asked, approaching our table. I looked up to see the gentleman, who I realized was the owner of the restaurant, standing at our table. He smelled like the owner. Becky was as white as a ghost and trembling. I stood up and extended my hand to the man. Hello, I'm Ted, Becky's husband. Are you the owner of this establishment? I asked. He was nervous now, shifting his gaze from me to Becky. He took my hand and struggled to choose his words. I'm Anthony, he told me. I'm the owner, and I want to thank you for having lunch with us. If you are not satisfied with anything, please let me know. With those words, he turned and hurried into the kitchen. I sat back down. Becky looked like she was about to finally break down. I didn't want that to happen. Making her miserable was not in my plans. He seemed like a nice guy, I smiled. The food has to be good, or I'll let him know about it. Becky was still white. She got up and ran out of the restaurant. I got up and followed her. I caught her in the parking lot. Taking her hand, I walked her to her car and opened the door in front of her. By this time, she was sobbing uncontrollably. I got behind the wheel and drove home. For the first half of the drive, she just cried. I didn't say a word. I didn't know that she and Jack frequented that restaurant. After thinking about it, I decided it was silly. The town wasn't that big. It was only a matter of time. Gradually, Becky calmed down enough that I could only hear occasional sobs. When we got home, I walked her into the house and sat her down on the couch. Then I prepared drinks for us and held one out to her. She took a long sip and then looked up at me through red eyes and sweat-stained makeup. I don't know what to say, Ted. I just don't know what to say, she repeated. I sat down on the ottoman and remained silent. It was up to her now. He knew me because Jack and I had been going there on Friday nights for weeks. We'd leave the library at 7, have dinner, and then... She hesitated, and I waited. Then we'd have sex, Ted. We'd drive to the hotel or just do it in his car if we didn't have time to get to a motel, she admitted. I know you're going to leave me now and I deserve it, she cried. It took a few minutes before her tears subsided and I waited. She was hurting, and that's the way it should be. I just sat there and waited. I didn't want to make it any easier for her. Ted, are you going to divorce me? She finally managed to ask. It's not my place to answer questions, I replied, but I want to ask you a few. I took her hands away from her eyes and forced her to look at me. Do you love Jack? Do you want to destroy Linda, your so-called best friend? Do you even care how I feel? How long have you been doing this? How many other affairs have you had? I asked at a fast pace. I could see her flinch at my questions. No, I'm not in love with him. I don't even think I like him anymore, Becky moaned. I feel terrible about Linda. I didn't even think of her when it happened, and it's to my shame. It all started last fall, the week before the Halloween party. We got too chummy doing that library crap, and one thing led to another. Next thing I know, Jack has me in the back seat of the car like a couple of kids. I was thrilled with his attention. Then he insisted that I not have sex with you. It was the control that tickled him to no end. When you got so angry at their party that night, I broke up with him. You scared me that night. You'd changed, and I was afraid you knew. The fact that I turned you down for sex that night wasn't so funny. I've been living in hell for the last 6 months, Ted. Are you telling me there were no others? That you were done with Jack months ago? I asked. Remember when you wanted Jack and Linda to come over for dinner and you joked about going to the well? Becky asked. I thought you knew then, and I was scared to death. After the party, I had already decided that I would never see Jack again, but this just solidified it for me. Your behavior was so strange then. It seemed like you were treating me like an outcast or something. I was sure you knew, but you never said anything, Becky mused. And then today, when I saw how amazing you looked, I felt so bad I wanted to die. That's when I decided I was going to bring you back, Becky admitted. That's when I came to your shower. When you rejected me, it made me want to die. And when Anthony asked for Jack and learned my name, I broke down. I don't want to live like that. I can't. What do you suggest, Becky? I asked. What do we do next? How can I trust you? Why should I trust you? You thought it was funny to turn me off at the whim of a married man you were having an affair with. How am I supposed to feel about that? I asked. I don't know, Ted. You're right not to trust me. I hope you don't tell Linda. She doesn't deserve to be treated the way I treated her friendship, Becky sobbed. Becky, do you want a divorce? Tell me if you want one, I urged. I won't contest it, and we can split everything between us if that's what you want. No! I want you to love me like you used to. Maybe you can't, but that's what I want, and that's what you asked for, Becky shouted. Becky, I've changed. I won't love you like I used to. I've already told you my terms. This is the first step. You're finally telling me the truth. It's been hard for you, but it might be even harder from here on, I warned. What do you mean, Ted? Asked Becky. Is there a chance? Becky, I decided a long time ago what I would do at this point. Remember the party and Goofy? I was in that costume for a while, and I thought you recognized me somehow. It took a while before I realized that you had mistaken me for Jack, I admitted. I didn't know. It could have been anyone. Becky sighed. I'm such a horrible slut. No wonder you don't want to sleep with me. I don't deserve to be happy. Becky, this is what I decided many months ago. I love you like I've never loved anyone else. I've never seen a more desirable woman. In order for us to be together, I have to trust you, I stated. If I have to trust you after you let me down, then I'll expect you to trust me after I let you down. I don't understand, Ted. You've been unfaithful? What are you saying? Becky pleaded. I failed to give you the strong hand and attention you needed. I was weak and I let you have everything to hold you back. I won't do that again, I assured her. I am filing for divorce today. Goodbye,